In this lesson, we'll learn how to use Max's position constraint. So in this lesson and the next few lessons that will follow, we'll start to set up an animator-friendly control for this arm. So we'll learn some cool techniques, and the first tools we'll take a look at will be constraints to lock down the IK goal. We'll also learn how to control the wrist, so we have full control over its orientation. But first things first, let's go ahead and work with the position constraint. We have an idea of what it does. It's used to lock down only the position of an object. And what's great about working with constraints is that we have control over how much that object will influence the constrained object. We can adjust its weight. And we cover this more extensively in character rigging for production, but let's go ahead and get an idea of how this works. Now, first things first, let's go ahead and create an animation control for this arm. So what I'd like to do is start by creating a mesh. We can work with a box. I'll have it set to cube. We'll just go ahead and create a quick cube. So let's go to now right-click to exit. We'll also right-click on the cube and convert this to an editable poly. Now, going to its edge subobject, we'll go ahead and select all of its edges. And watch, we can go ahead and convert these edges to a shape from here, right underneath the edit edge rollout. So I'll go ahead and choose Create Shape from Selection. We can name this anim _L _arm 01. We want it to remain a linear shape. We'll go ahead and choose OK. We no longer need our cube, so let's go ahead and get back to the top level here, the edit poly, and just go ahead and delete it. Now we can go ahead and take this object. Let's go ahead and center its pivot. We'll go to the hierarchy panel, Effect Pivot Only, Center to Object. And now, disabling the pivot tool, we can now use Shift A to align this shape to our IK goal. So what's great about working with a shape is by default it does not render, and what's also nice is we can now go to its point level. Let's go to its vertex subobject level, and we can go ahead and reshape it from here. I'll go ahead and select its points. I'll set the pivot mode to center from the shelf at the top, and we'll go ahead and just scale this out a bit more. And now we can always set this back to from pivot just to make sure that we can control this from the right spot. Alright, great. So there's our control. I'd like to show you one more thing. If we were to go to the rendering rollout under the modify panel, notice we can enable rendering in viewport, which will add some thickness, and then you can start to adjust it from here using this thickness parameter. Alright, so really neat. We have an animation control. Alright, now one thing we wouldn't want to forget is freezing its transform. So with it selected, let's alt right click and choose freeze transform. So it'll always go back to that same position with the transform to 0. Alright, so let's take a look now. If we were to go ahead and take our IK goal, we can now go to the animation menu and grab the position constraint. Here it is. So the next thing we need to choose is the object it needs to be constrained to. So that's going to be our arm control. We should notice no shifting because we've already made sure that the arm control was aligned to our IK goal. So watch this. When we grab our control object and start to move it around, now we are controlling the goal by the position of our animation control, which is very exciting. Very cool. Let's go ahead and take a look at some more options we have with the position constraint. So with the IK goal selected, going to our motion panel, we'd want to go to the position list, which should already be active, but here's how we can access it. So when we go in and apply an orientation constraint in the next lesson, we'd want to grab our rotation list. Alright, but either way, we can now scroll down until we get to our constraint properties at the bottom. So notice there is the position constraint controller that has been applied, and here are its settings. So we can add more weight here and blend between different spaces from this control to another object if we needed to by simply adding another target. So just to kind of show you this, if we were to go in and create a helper, I'm going to add that to the scene. I'm going to go ahead and use Shift A just to align it to our control. And I'm going to go ahead and start to move this over to the side a bit. So watch this. If we were to go back to our goal, go back to the motion panel, notice we can go ahead and add a position target, and we can choose our point helper. So what we'll get now is a blend between the two. So when we go in and grab our animation control, let's go ahead and turn off add position target and start to move our control around. You can see that now we're getting a blend between the two weights. So it's really cool because you can use this to create things like blendable IK FK systems. Again, another topic discussed in character rigging for production. And we'll get that same blending when we start to move around the helper. So that's really cool. And then what we could do is go in, let's go back to our IK goal, we could go in and start to adjust the weight from here. So we can have those blend back and forth. Great. We also have an option here, keep initial offset, which will allow the constrained object to remain in the same spot no matter where the object that is controlling that object is placed. So if I were to go ahead and undo back a few times just to kind of show you this, to bring the arm back, and I'll go ahead and remove the weight of the point helper. Just go ahead and select the point helper and choose delete, just to make sure that the arm gets moved back. Alright, so let's say if we were to apply this again and have this object constrained to our helper without having it shift. What we could do is choose keep initial offset, and now watch, when we go in and add another position target, the arm is no longer going to shift at all. It keeps this initial position. Well, so just wanted to show that to you. What I'll now do is go in and actually remove that point helper's weight, because we don't need that at all. Just wanted to kind of show you some other features that come along with the position constraint. All right, well, we now have the IK goal connected. We've learned how to use the position constraint to do that. We've also learned how its weight can be blended. So in the next lesson, what we'll do is take a look at another constraint, this time one that will allow us to lock down the orientation of an object.